Hey guys, I got a shelf. Welcome back to the Bear.Of.Wands YouTube channel. So today we're going to talk about Tibetan astrology, specifically different ways that I found that Tibetan astrology can go in and help you. Through doing charts and through talking to people and learning Tibetan astrology, I found that there's a lot of very specific ways that Tibetan astrology can help people. And I don't think that people know as much about Tibetan astrology, so they would almost wonder why I should bother going that way. Why would I bother spending the money? Well, I think these are very interesting, and they may kind of convince you to think more about Tibetan astrology and maybe find out why you would want to even go that route. First, we're going to look into the obvious things about Tibetan astrology. Basically, when you get your chart, there's all these different sections and all these different ways that it's broken down that we look into to help you specifically, right? First off, the stated goal of Tibetan astrology is to help people get towards enlightenment. Our Tibetan astrology comes from the Bon tradition, the Tibetan Bon tradition, from His Holiness Padma Rinpoche. The main focus, the only focus of Tibetan Bon is to help people get towards liberation, get towards enlightenment, get towards freedom, right? So through Tibetan astrology, we start to help people down that path. Tibetan astrology, there's different sections to it. You can get a Tibetan astrology, and then eventually, hopefully, you would move towards the cosmology. In Tibetan astrology, though, the analogy that I heard from Padma Rinpoche that I really like is that you can tell the story of Grandpa Bear, you can tell the story of Papa Bear, but we're telling a story of Baby Bear. Tibetan astrology tells you what you came into this life with, right? Because we come in with all this karma and all this baggage. Tibetan astrology unpacks all that, so it lets us know our starting point so that we can then move forward. When we get into cosmology, we're looking into your present and your future. And then from that view, because we already have the astrology, which is Baby Bear, then we have your current situation, which is Papa Bear, and then we have your future, which is Grandpa Bear, right? And from that view, then we can start to build practices and things that can help you move directly towards enlightenment. Basically, we're trying to create the fastest path to enlightenment that we possibly can, because that is all what Tibetan Bon is about. In the astrology package, we're just looking at where you're starting from, right? Your Baby Bear. But from that, we get to see how you tend to move, what you would tend to be good at, what would tend to be a good fit for you. Because as we grow up, hopefully we're doing self-work. We're doing things to fix ourselves. We're doing things to move forward and progress in our life. Because as individuals, we want the smoothest, best, happiest life that we can get. When you get your astrology package, we have all these different views that we look at you from, right? That we look at Baby Bear from. We start off with the general tendencies of Baby Bear. Then we move into how other people view Baby Bear. Then we move into how Baby Bear views himself. And then finally we view the inner world of Baby Bear, kind of the nuts and bolts, what he keeps kind of hidden inside of him, right? And from that, we get this broad view of who Baby Bear is, what Baby Bear acts like, how people interpret him. And from that, we can pull all kinds of stuff. For instance, what is your best career path? We can take Baby Bear and compare him to Susie, and we can find out if they're compatible. We can find out what ways they're not compatible. Or more importantly, if Baby Bear is in love with Susie, we can find out what they need to do to really have a harmonious relationship, to really have a long-lasting, beautiful marriage. And because we get such a broad scope of who you were when you came into this life and the karmas and habits that you walked in with, we can find out all kinds of interesting stuff. From there, especially from the elemental analysis, we can find out if you're lacking in some way, if you're sad, or if you're too angry, or if you're super ADD, or whatever the different thing is, we can look at those and we can kind of help you manipulate your elements in a way that everything runs smoother, that you're in harmony. And honestly, that's just a handful of things that we can look at when we're diving into the Tibetan astrology package for an individual. But some of the other stuff that I wanted to bring to you guys is how broad this is. There's way more that we can get from this than just how we help the individual. And that's part of what I want to bring to you today, okay? I'm a new father. I just had a baby a little while ago. He's the greatest thing in the world, and he's better than your kid. And I'm sorry about your kid, but mine's better. So through having him and being a Tibetan astrologer, I started learning things. When you can do a chart for like your child and you can find out so much about how to work with your child, how to give them what they need so that they can flourish more. Everybody who has multiple kids knows that you have to kind of treat every kid differently. You have to only give them what they can handle. Just because you can give your 10-year-old son a knife to cut his own steak doesn't mean that you can give your 10-year-old daughter a knife because she's going to start stabbing teddy bears, and you just can't have that. You can't have it in your house. They're different people. When you have different people, you have to treat them differently. I also work with people with disabilities. And one of the things, it was like my first day of orientation. And the question was, how should you treat people? Should you treat everybody the same? And of course, everybody wants to say yes, because just because they have a disability doesn't mean you should treat them any differently. But in fact, you should. Because some people, if you treat them the same, one is going to hug you and love you and be the best ever, and the other one is going to throw a table at you. And I mean that very literally. If you've ever worked with people with disabilities, they will throw a table at you. And it is not really your fault, and it's not really theirs. It's just how it is. So you can't treat people the same. How much of a gift would it be to you if you knew going into raising your child how they were going to respond to certain things, what troubles they were going to have? To know ahead of time if your kid is going to grow up to start smoking meth or if he's going to grow up to be completely sober. Things like that. If you have a propensity for addiction, that's something that would be really nice to know ahead of time. If you know things like that, then you know to always check his sock drawer, because it may be pot one day, but it could be Coke the next. And knowing something like that is invaluable. And through Tibetan astrology, we can do stuff like that. What if you have a child and your dream is for them to become a doctor? You want them to be a doctor. And you push and you push and you push and you push. Well, then you find out that this brilliant child who is so good at all these different things, they are the worst student that has ever existed in the history of time. They do good in high school just because they're smart, but when it comes time for college, they can't handle it. They can't handle sitting in class. Well, if when they're 4, you already know this child is incredibly smart, they're talented, they can speak well, they're just a wonderful human being, but they like to work with their hands. They will do something incredible, but they want to do it physically with their hands. They don't want to sit in class. They can't sit in class. It tears them apart. Well, knowing that ahead of time, that kid has such a greater head start than all the other kids. Say he's going to be an artist. If you start being an artist at 4, you're going to be a way better artist than all those kids that started when they were 14, right? So to me, that's an incredible gift that Tibetan astrology can give to us. The final area that I want to talk about is through business. As a Tibetan astrologer, we learn so many extra things. I mean, within Tibetan astrology, just in a basic astrology chart, we have numerology, we have I-ching readings, we have Mo, we have all these things that we do. One of the other ones that we learn is feng shui. Now, I want to preface this by saying we are not feng shui specialists. It is not what we have dedicated our lives to, and we are not the most incredible feng shui artists in the world, but we know quite a bit about it, right? So from things like that in feng shui, imagine if you're going in and you're starting a brick and mortar store, and you're kind of trying to figure out how to organize the whole thing. Well, through what we know in Tibetan astrology, we can literally organize your entire office so that every person in there is in the absolute best spot to be the most productive and the most successful that they physically can be. That's just a piece of what we know from Tibetan astrology. On top of that, if we know the elemental makeup of a room, we know that Jim and Bobby are always going to clash. They're always going to be at each other's throats, and you just don't want them near each other. But Jim and Bobby, who are next to each other, well, you have Susan over here, right? Well, Susan and Bobby, they're like soulmates. Everything they do is going to turn to gold, and we know that because we know the way that their elements are made up. So we can take what a business owner has created, and we can just tweak it just that little bit. Separate these two, move this one over here, maybe put a plant in the corner, maybe put a little water fountain thing over here, and just from that change, you can see incredible growth in your business. This is just like a minute taste of what Tibetan astrology can do. I just wanted to bring this to you because it's just been swirling around in me. I do a chart and I can see all these things. More importantly, I can see all these ways that I can help someone help their self. I can help someone and give them just these minuscule tools, just this little bit of information that makes such a massive change. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm a Tibetan astrologer. And before I got into Tibetan Bond, I was not really into all the astrology stuff. In my opinion, and I'm not saying it's bad, and I know I didn't get the best astrologers and yada yada. I know. There's better Western astrologers out there. But every time I would get a Western astrology reading chart thing, like I said, I just don't know about it. I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody. But every time I would get it, I would read it, and I would just be like, well, yeah, that's me. That's who I am. Yep. So, and that was all I would get. Yeah, it's accurate. It absolutely is. But I wasn't getting a whole lot from it. When I build out a Tibetan astrology chart, I build in fixes. Now, like I said, it's not as extreme as a cosmology package. Cosmology package will bring you up to the door of enlightenment, right? It gives you practices to really help you get to the ultimate goal. But in Tibetan astrology, I can build in things that just make your life better. And I found it incredible. I found it incredible helping people through that thing. The way that it's helped my relationship with my wife, when I did our two charts and I was able to put them together, it lit so many lights in my brain. It just fired everything off because I understood it now. I knew how things were connected. I knew why we clashed in this area, but didn't clash in this area. And I knew how to settle this fire and nourish this growth, right? Yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys because it's just fucking cool. It's just cool. It's amazing that I have the opportunity to help people like that. And I know a lot of people don't know as much about Tibetan astrology as they do the other stuff. And I figured it might be helpful to hear more about that. Yeah, I'm just excited about them. They're awesome. If you guys want to get your Tibetan astrology, please hit me up any of the platforms that I'm on, Facebook, YouTube. You can email me, put the email down there. Yeah, hit me up, ask me about it. I just love talking about it because I'm a little bit obsessed. So, yeah, thank you for sticking around. Please like, please subscribe, let YouTube know that you don't hate me, or if you do, put a thumbs up, because that's how they really know that you hate me. If you hit the notification bell, then they really know that you hate me. So, yeah, hit me up. Thank you, guys. Say your mantra, take your vitamins, stay grateful, y'all.